Hello again, YouTube. This is Deadman here to present our very first in the fan review series. That's right, for you guys, a few of you guys have requested we covered the Assassin's Creed series. Now, we are gamers, however, we're not a big fan of Assassin's Creed as our guest reviewer. That's right, we have our very first guest reviewer. One of my best friends, Lofus.
Cut! You're too damn short.
Okay, take two, because apparently my friend Lofus doesn't quite meet the camera requirements. Anyways, here he is, my friend Lofus.
You better? Cut! Again, damn it, nose up. Try it one more time.
We good? We good? Okay.
We should be.
And now, one of my best friends, Lofus, to review the Assassin's Creed series. Lofus, going in.
Alright. Woo! Alright.
Alright, good. We're good. Okay, take it away.
Progress. Thank you guys. Privileged to be here. I want to go ahead and touch on Assassin's Creed. Now, it's a great series, having to always do with basically time travel, if you could say. A lot of it has to do with going back into memories, DNA, all that good stuff. But what we really want to focus on is most of the gameplay as well as the backstory for each of these characters. Now, I know not a lot of people are fans of the way the first one turned out in gameplay, but loved the story itself and the characters. But then the story fell back down, and the characters weren't as good for the following games.
Let's get to the review.
So let's go ahead and get to the review, and we'll cover everything for you.
Alright everyone, let's start things off with one of the best in the series, thanks to its innovation. The free running options that were used had been one of the two things that were most enticing for me. Now, of course, Ubisoft was not new to using these mechanics, all due to a little game called The Prince of Persia. Some of you might remember that. The second point that had captured my interest was the setting. To me, being able to freely explore places like Damascus and Jerusalem was almost more than I could bear. Once I got my hands on it and played through, I found the story was one of the most enthralling I had experienced on this current generation of consoles. Now, despite my love for the story, the game does severely lack with gameplay. I almost hate to say it, but it was so bad that I set the game aside for a few months before actually returning to finish it. It was a basic wash, rinse, repeat situation in which you were given a target and told where to get all the information you needed to complete the assassination. Over and over again and again. It would have been so bad had they actually mixed up how your intel was gathered. Listen in on this conversation, pick this character's pocket, capture flags for a fellow assassin, or even kill the comrade's pursuers. It was appalling. Despite all of these issues, Altair bin Lahad was one of the most favored characters of the entire series. Why? Because of his blatant disregard for his superiors and his skills, which backed up his pride. He was, for all intents and purposes, the ultimate badass. Fortunately, Ubisoft then followed up his epicness with Ezio Auditore da Firenze, and the second installment of the Assassin's Creed story. Now don't get me wrong, Ezio has his entertaining moments in the second game. He was always the classic Italian lover, very sure of himself and how he could bed his next conquest. That is until he finds himself thrown into the Assassin-Templar War. In this game we also get to see a little more of the true main character, Desmond Miles, which I'll come back to. The game shared some fantastic scenery of some of the most iconic locations of Italy, and finally allowed you to fast travel between cities, which is something that people really desired. It became tedious to travel between locations in Assassin's Creed 1, once all the flags and viewpoints had been discovered in the outlying country. Ubisoft went ahead and changed the way you blended into crowds, and especially how you obtained info on your targets. I became enamored with the gameplay because of how fluid it had become. Now, as the Studio Dead has pointed out, their gripes to me, I may as well include them. In particular, was their unanimous hate for Ezio. As they so eloquently stated, Ezio is the assassin that somehow, someway, everyone wants to fuck with. And it really is the truth. He finds out that the Assassin Order has been using him to lay waste to their enemies, and he just accepts it. As you can see from the outrage of the Studio Dead, the story had done its job of getting people actually invested in the characters. We're also introduced to Subject 16, and what he has discovered is the truth. It shares an interesting explanation to the classic story of Adam and Eve. Now, aside from the usual fantastic story, the gameplay mechanics were vastly improved from the last game. This time around, you get to actually run around as Desmond. We even get a glimpse of Altair as Desmond experiences a side effect of extended use of the Animus. It all in all turned out to be a great sequel if you could get past Ezio and his meekness. Now, the first thought that ran through my mind at hearing about Brotherhood was a bit of excitement, and then I found out that Ezio would be the ancestor whose memories you would experience. I'm sure there was a heavy sigh felt throughout the world. Everyone had been looking for a game centered around Desmond, but again, you could only gain control of him enough to run around Monteregione. At least in this game, Ezio is now considered a master assassin and can train others to fight alongside him. Nothing more satisfying than pummeling a group of enemies with arrows from every direction. Once again, the story's exceeded expectation and has allowed us to hunt the Borgia family. Now, there weren't too many changes aside from actually building up your assassin group, except for the bane of my existence, multiplayer. It was a fantastic idea, but of course there are too many players out there who don't use the stealth as it's supposed to be meant to, just run around until they kill their targets, or get killed themselves. I will say, though, that I love how Ubisoft decided to actually give the multiplayer a story of its own, which they had continued to do in the next installment. Subject 16 also makes another appearance to reveal more info on their shared experiences between him and Desmond, this time in the way of a maze that he must conquer to finally meet his predecessor. Now, the setting of Rome also turns out to be one of the more accurately designed, so that climbing the Colosseum was something that no one should actually miss out on. We were also introduced to a new fighting mechanic. It was appropriately titled a kill streak. This allowed you to kill one enemy and then immediately kill one after another as long as you had decent timing. Led to some pretty awesome and gruesome battles when you became good enough. First things first, in the last game, there was no Altair. Thankfully, though, Ubisoft gave us a nice little treat when we get to step back into the robes of the Master, through the memories of Ezio. That's right, we're playing as Desmond, reliving the memories of Ezio, who's reliving the memories of Altair. Odd? Yes. Little confusing? Maybe. Enjoyable? Absolutely. We even get the privilege of seeing how he turned out in the years as mentor, which is not what Ezio is having to go through. And of course, in all places, we go and run off to Constantinople. Although it didn't offer the same view as previous locations, it does have its charm. Not to mention the hook blade, which allows you to now glide Batman-style down the various wire system connecting everything. You also deal with some true revelations this time around, some of which include Desmond's backstory through a series of awkward first-person levels. The second big reveal is what those of the first civilization were trying to prevent before suffering their own destruction. We even begin to see and realize that even after his old age, and his playboy way, Ezio's never had a child. Except, you obviously kind of get the hint when he starts to form that relationship right towards the end. Now what we really get to see is how fucked up Subject 16 had become before installing himself in the Animus core. Talk about seriously twisted. Not too many new gameplay mechanics this time around aside from the hook blade, and from what I've seen, multiplayer is largely unchanged. But let's be honest, the reason we all keep coming back is for the tale that Ubisoft has so far successfully told. As for me, I can't wait to see how things turn out for Desmond now that the group is en route to New York in Assassin's Creed 3 and get to experience Connor.
Alright guys, that basically will wrap up our review, except, of course, the review itself. We've got Drake. Go ahead and give it.
My fucking
Whatever the hell that was. The Dead Man, we'll go ahead and give it a 2 out of 3. And Zeiss, as well, a 2 out of 3. So in general, Studio Dead is saying to go ahead and rent the series. As your guest reviewer, of course, I'm going to go ahead and also give it a 2 out of 3. Because, well, it's a decent series and you should at least check it out. Signing off with Studio Dead, this is Lofus. For Deadman, Zeiss, and Drake, game on.